FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's May 11th, 2020. Well, gold has been behaving very nicely. We look like we got a steady support level of right around 1,700. It's probably going to go up from here. Might be a month or two. It might be a day or two. It might be a week or two, but it's going to go up. It's just, you look around at the world economy and you think, well, why isn't it higher? Why hasn't silver taken off? All these questions. Well, I'd like to know your opinion, and you can email me with it at kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, person you're about to hear from, haven't had him on in a while. His site, I'm sure you're very familiar with, deviantinvestor.com. Gary Christenson, known you for years now, Gary. It's great to have you back on the show. And what about this world, these markets? I mean, talk about a world that has gone upside down, topsy-turvy, and completely insane.
Well, I have to agree with you. That is my perception also. Whether it's a virus or whether it's the virus of central banking or whether it's just crazy quantitative easing, things seem pretty crazy. Yeah,
crazy, bordering on, complete insanity. I mean, we've got helicopter money here, Gary, right?
Well, yes, and quantities of it. I mean, the Fed has just printed up over $2 trillion in the last, 5, 6, 7 weeks. And that can't be ignored. That is a massive amount of money that is going to affect all facets of the economy. And it hasn't worked down into the inflation at the consumer price level, but it will.
Yeah, no doubt it's going to. And we don't know when, because the Fed's masterful at obfuscating, the government's masterful at obfuscating the true rate of inflation. But you and I know, whether you're an adherent to the quantity theory of money or not, here we've got a massive decrease in productivity around the world and a massive increase in currency that many governments are getting into the hands of the general public, or helicopter money, as we've lovingly, knowingly come to refer to it. And what can they do at this point? What effect do you think all the quantitative easing to infinity, the helicopter money, how is that going to affect the global economy and the consumer price index?
Well, big questions and difficult answers, but let's start with a fundamental issue that I think is important. If you create trillions of dollars from nothing, what is it really worth? Okay, well, the answer is it's worth whatever you and I think it's worth and whatever the rest of the world thinks it's worth, because it has no intrinsic value. If you have an ounce of gold in your hand, it has intrinsic value. If you have 1,700 paper dollars in your hand, you have, for all practical purposes, no intrinsic value. Then go create a few trillion more of them, and you still have no intrinsic value in those. We appreciate the value of money because we appreciate the value of money. It's a tautology, but it's real. I have money. I have paper dollars. I can go spend them because somebody else thinks they're real, because they can go give them to somebody else to get something they need because they think they're real. If we mess with that system by creating trillions of new extra dollars, then don't we put at risk the confidence and faith that people have in that money? Don't we put at risk the belief that they have that those paper dollars, those digital dollars, will retain value going into the future? I think we substantially weaken that faith, and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point. When it reaches a tipping point, then people say, I don't trust the money. Think Venezuela. I don't trust the money. Think Argentina, Zimbabwe, and hundreds of other places that have overprinted, perhaps way more intensely than we have, perhaps not, because we're the reserve currency. We get a temporary pass on that.
Yeah.
But at some point, you can expect people to lose faith in the currency. Maybe they just lose a little bit and say, well, I'm going to go out and buy something now while the interest rates are artificially low and I can get away with it. But maybe they say, I need to desperately get out of everything in dollars and get into something real like gold and silver. That I've been waiting for a long time. We're closer to it now, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, but we could be closer than anyone thinks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who would think in January that we were going to have 30-some million unemployed filed in March and April? I mean, something is changing in the world, massively changing in the world, and we're not in a position to predict it very well as to what will happen. When does the massive printing of U.S. dollars or Japanese yen or the euro or the British pound affect the global currencies and global prices? We're not sure what's happening in China, but for sure the only commonality is central banks are printing, trying to fill the hole that has been made in our economies. And when they fill the hole with paper dollars, digital euros, whatever, they have to be devaluing all existing dollars, euros, yen, whatever. And that means that eventually that will be reflected in prices. Now, right now, you might be able to get an SUV really cheap because they're not selling. You might be able to get a new TV really cheap because they're not selling. But I understand the price of meat's going up. Pretty soon, that could be the price of most everything that we need. Maybe not the things we want, like new TVs, but maybe the things we need, like food and energy.
Yeah. Very, very likely. We've seen that that there's definitely issues with the food supply going on here, right?
Yes.
And so we're seeing meat prices go up, fast food places run out of hamburger meat, all these things.
Well, that's supply chain issues. But if we have what we have right now, it seems to me is a supply shock. People aren't going to work, therefore they're not producing, therefore we don't have supply. But we also have a demand shock. What if I don't have any money to buy something? What if I'm not leaving the house to demand goods? What if I'm not leaving the house to demand movies, transportation, food, restaurant food, bars? You know, if I need to go out for a beer and the bars are all closed, that's a demand shock. There is no demand there, and there is no supply if the suppliers can't supply it. That doesn't sound like the picture of a healthy economy. And we can see that in two things very easily: the unemployment, people filing for unemployment. And the second thing is the desperation, the absolute panic on the part of government and the Federal Reserve and other central banks, printing money like mad. And you know, then you have to ask the question, so the Federal Reserve is printing money like mad, printing their dollars up and pretending they still have value. But can they produce restaurant demand? Can they produce gold? Can they produce oil? Can they produce food? Can they produce meat? Can they produce fast food supplies? Can they produce personal protective medical equipment? No, they can't produce any of that stuff. All they can do is help to feed dollars into the economy to help paper over the issues of a demand shock and a supply shock. And I think it's fairly easy to predict, and I might be seriously wrong on this, but I think it's fairly easy to predict it's not going to work very well for very long. There's going to be a problem. There's going to be consequences. And one of the consequences is going to be global, worldwide inflation of consumer prices for things we need. And you know, stocks will probably rise, the currency will crash, and the availability of credit around the world will diminish. I don't know whether it crashes like it does in 2008 or worse, or maybe not quite so bad. But for sure, we have hard times ahead of us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And what do you think of the preparation level of people out there? How prepared are you out there, these people?
I think most people are not prepared at all. I think from a financial point of view, there have been a lot of studies that have said, well, you can't produce $400 if you've got an emergency. That doesn't sound like that's prepared. I understand that banks are closing down credit limits on people because they want to limit their risk. I mean, certainly reasonable from a banker's point of view, but if the only thing I'm living on right now is my credit cards, and I've got to have food, I don't want somebody cutting down my credit limit. I think that there's a shortage of preparation at the financial level. I think there's a shortage of preparation at the statewide level. How many state pension funds are in deep trouble? How many state how many state budgets are in deep trouble? I think there's a shortage of preparation at the national level. I think that a lot of people would think CDC, the Center for Disease Control, pretty well botched this process with the pandemic. I think that there was a shortage of medical equipment, protective medical equipment, and I think that there were testing supplies that were available from other countries, but we didn't want to use those testing supplies. We wanted to do it all homegrown here, and so we had problems. I understand there's problems with the quality of the tests and the contamination in the tests. No point in getting any further into that, but doesn't sound to me like prepared at any level in the economy or in personal lives or in financial things. I think that also says bad times ahead.
Yeah. So if you were just woke up today and figured this out, what would you be doing besides buying bullion? What else would you do?
Yeah, I think I'd be buying bullion. Look at silver. It's roughly $15.50. That's on the COMEX for whatever that's worth. But right now, that's the only game in town. And gold is roughly $1,700, $1,710. The ratio between those two is outrageously high. It's something like 115 or so, 110, 115. I'd be buying silver bullion if you could get it. Now, if you buy Silver Eagles, the premium's fairly high. If you want to buy silver bullion 100-ounce bars, which I think is a great way to do it, the premium's not so bad. Go out and buy silver bullion. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have Boeing stock, which is depending on a federal bailout?
Yeah, it's a mad world, huh?
Well, I think so. World. And, I'm clearly biased in the favor of gold and silver. But I think realistically, we have to say their time has finally come. In 2008, when the crisis hit, one could have bought gold and silver quite inexpensively and watched them double or way more in the next 3 years. And I think we're at a similar position right now. I'd like to remind people that silver was $4.01 in November of 2001. And it went up to almost $50 in 2011. So, rise of a factor of 10 and over a factor of 10 in 10 years. And that leads you to ask, what will silver be in 5 years from now? And I think that it's very reasonable to think, given all of the quantitative easing, given the panic that hasn't yet happened but will probably happen when people panic out of fiat currencies, that silver prices will rise substantially higher than they are today.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. And the interesting thing is that from literally like 11 through like 19, basically bullion was awful performing, and silver still hasn't performed well in terms of fiat currency. How do you think that occurred? How did that phenomena happen?
Well, there's a lot of discussion about repression of prices on the COMEX, and we know that there's anywhere from 100 to 200 ounces of paper silver for every ounce of real silver that's backing the COMEX, or perhaps substantially more. I don't trust the numbers very much. I do know that if you have paper contracts, which are can be created in essentially unlimited quantities, and you have a limited amount of actual physical silver in the world, that you can control the prices with the paper contracts, because the COMEX is basically a paper operation, not a bullion operation. I think that affected the prices of everything. I think that people were disheartened after the 2011 crash. I mean, silver went from 50 to 30 in a couple of weeks. People are disheartened by that. And the stock market was booming. And who wants to trust gold and silver when you can go buy Apple and watch it double in the space of a couple of years? Yeah. So, I think that that's all part of it. But these things could run in cycles. And Apple may have their day for a long time. They certainly have done extremely well. I wish I had bought Apple stock some time ago. But their time, is limited. And just like GE, what happened to GE? $50 and now it's 10% of that. What happened to Boeing? Over $400 and now it's down to $120. These things happen. They have their time. Silver was almost $50 in 2011. It's down to $17.50. That looks to me like a bargain because silver can't go to zero. Silver is a real quantity, a real metal that has value and has intrinsic value for thousands of years. So I trust it. I'm not so sure I trust Boeing. I'm not so sure I trust Apple anymore, as just examples. And there's 4,000 or 5,000 stocks you can look at.
Yeah. So now we're in the end of this, getting to the end of the pandemic. Obviously, they're going to start opening stuff up. If for no other reason, then the states are going bust right and left. Basically, they've all gone bankrupt for the most part. Nobody admits it. And so for their own sake of survival, these states cannot stay shut down anymore. And they're just going to open and the consequences be damned. And we could debate the efficacy of the lockdown and its motivation and whether or not it was all worth it and whether the cure is worse than the disease. But we're going to open up now with all this money sloshing around. What's going to happen here? Will it give us a temporary boost here, or are we just going to kind of go into zombie-like dormancy?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Trilogy Metals is a world-class developer in Alaska's Ambler mining district. The company already possesses 8 billion pounds of copper, 3 billion pounds of zinc, over 1 million gold-equivalent ounces, and now over 77 million pounds of cobalt. Trilogy's Arctic project boasts an after-tax net present value of $1.4 billion with a 33% IRR. Trilogy is led by an experienced management team with proven success in discovering and developing projects in Alaska. The company is well capitalized, has no debt, and possesses strong institutional support. Trilogy trades on the New York and Toronto exchanges under the ticker symbol TMQ. To learn more, go to trilogymetals.com. That's trilogymetals.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Well, another wonderful question, and all I can offer is opinions and guesses. The money that's been created, all those trillions that have been created, have basically gone into stock market, bond market, ETFs, junk bonds, whatever. So pretty much the paper part of the economy, most of it hasn't gone to the real economy, meaning production, production of goods and services. That's why we have so much unemployment. It's sitting out there. People aren't working. That money has gone into financial things, not real producing things. When it finally gets out of the financial markets, if ever, and starts moving into the real production of goods and services, then I expect those prices will go much, much higher. We expected with all the creation of money that the Federal Reserve did in 2008 that there would be a lot more inflation. And there really wasn't that much inflation. I mean, there certainly was some, but I don't really think there was anywhere near as much as people expected because that money never really got out into the real economy. It stayed in the financial economy, the paper economy. I think that won't be able to happen this time, just my guess, that we'll have to move a lot of that money into the real economy. And then we will see some pretty massive inflation.
Yeah.
Might see a lot of deflation first. We might see a lot of stock and real estate and bond prices deflating first. And that might take a year to 3 years before it happens, or it might be happening next month. But eventually, it's going to move into the real economy and move into the things we need, food and such.
Yeah. And so we got an election presumably coming up here. I think it's going to happen. And is that irrelevant at this point, or does it matter? What do you think?
Well, we have a whole lot of Democrats who think it's one of the most important elections in the history of the world. And a lot of Republicans who think that, well, you know what they think. They're not, they need to support their man.
Yeah, well, stand by your man.
Right. And from my point of view, I mean, not from my point of view, from the point of view of looking at it from an economy, who cares? It's borrow and spend all the way. We're going to borrow, we're going to spend, we're going to bail out. It's an election year. Tell me which groups the current administration or the current Democrats or the current Republicans are going to want to stiff while they're benefiting other groups. It doesn't make sense to me that they're going to say, well, we're going to benefit you, we're going to give you a bunch of bailouts, but we're not going to give you a bunch of bailouts. I think they're going to give everybody bailouts. What worries me is that they'll go hog wild on that and be bailing out trillions of dollars to bankrupt pension funds and trillions of dollars to states that are in trouble, just like you mentioned. And that at that point, where does it end? You know, when do you ever stop bailing out needy customers? Because everybody always needs something. And, you know, so we got $25 trillion in debt now. How soon before it's 50 trillion? How soon before it's 100 trillion?
Yes, really great questions. And it looks like there is no limit in sight. There is no end in sight. Trump had said at one point he was hoping that the whole debt inflation thing would have to be handled once he was out of office. But more and more every day, that doesn't seem to be the case.
I agree. It does not seem to be the case. As a plug here for gold, in very round numbers, look at the price of gold as relevant, as relatable to the size of the deficit. Increase the deficit by twice, double the deficit, and the price of gold goes up. Not a linear relationship, of course, over long term, but but on average, there's a lot of truth in it. So if we're looking at $4 to $6 trillion in deficit this fiscal year, and possibly as much next fiscal year, what is that going to do to the price of gold? Because gold reflects the confidence in the Federal Reserve diminishing, confidence in the economy diminishing, confidence in the credibility and integrity of the currency diminishing, and the buying power of all those existing dollars that have been diluted by all that extra money that's been created by the Federal Reserve. In other words, gold looks to me like a fairly sure thing for the next many years. Maybe not for the next week, maybe not for the next day. I don't know about the short term, but for the long term, just seems to me like gold has to be going much higher. And if gold's going higher, silver is going a whole lot higher.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's definitely going to be the case. And the only surprise is it hasn't happened sooner, but maybe it's generational. This millennial generation doesn't know anything about, right? They know nothing about gold and silver or anything else for that matter, right?
Well, I wouldn't want to get into that. I don't know very many of them, but I do have a thought, and that is that silver is like the Pareto principle. 80% of the time it does nothing, and 20% of the time it does everything. Yeah. And, you know, that's silver. Gold is less so that way, but silver is a long time of boring you to death, and then pretty soon it's scaring you to death as it goes sky high. I
remember that guy Biederman. He used to have a blog, YouTube channel. And he would say that right now, every day, silver is the worst investment on the planet, but that one day you're going to wake up and it will be the best investment on the planet, right? That's kind of a different version of what I just said. I agree with that. Silver is that kind of an investment because it's a small market, and when it moves very rapidly. So the key to following silver is look at the gold-silver ratio. And right now, meaning the last couple of months, it's hit an all-time high by many standards, a 5,000-year high ratio. And every time that ratio goes that high, or if you look at it from the inverse, the silver to gold ratio goes that low, you'll find that you're at or near a bottom in both metals. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And it's not sustainable at that ratio either, right? It doesn't last long, does it?
It will not last long. You can push it that way with paper contracts on the COMEX. You can do whatever you can, but we're closing down silver mines. How long is it going to last when the supply disappears?
That's a great question and a great point too, because it's the production's going down. Obviously, a large portion of silver production is byproduct from gold mining, from copper, lead, zinc, base metal mining. And so it's still coming out there. And we've got a definite drop in industrial demand for the shiny metal. But it just seems to me that at some point the investment demand has to pick up.
And the investment demand will pick up when people realize their fiat dollars are buying less and less and less. You want to you get paid 0.6% roughly for a 10-year T-bond. So do you want to take $1,700 and put it into a 10-year T-bond and get back under $2,000 in 10 years? Or do you want to take $1,700, add a little premium, and put it into a gold coin and ask yourself which will be worth more in 10 years? There's your retirement. Which one makes more sense? Well, right now it's obvious to me that I'd rather have my money in gold and silver. It isn't that obvious to a lot of people yet, otherwise the price of gold and silver would be much higher. But that day's coming.
I couldn't agree with you more, Gary. And hey, we hear you're moving on from the Deviant Investor. You will be missed.
Well, yes. I really don't know what to say about that, except I've just done Deviant Investor for 8 years. I've been writing regularly for it. I did it. I really enjoyed it for a while. I'm just not enjoying it that much anymore. So I'm going to shut down the site, I think, or do something else with it. And for those that want to follow my writing, I still write for Miles Franklin.
All right.
So,
all right. And Andy Scheckman, a personal friend, great guy. And I've known him for, going on 10 years now. So you couldn't have hooked up with a better person for sure. And we wish you the best of luck. For now, just go to the deviantinvestor.com and you can read Gary's latest works. And they're extensive and well thought out. And again, we wish you the best of luck. And thank you so much for coming on and humoring us one last time. Or perhaps
thank you
not.
very much.
We'll keep having you on. But hey, any questions or comments, questions for Gary on his work, why don't you email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @kerrylutz, Facebook page is Financial Survival Network, and of course our main website, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. All right, Gary, thanks. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.